Hey, welcome to the show, everybody. Sorry we were gone for a week. We're trying to build the anticipation for the
Hmm.
for all the things that happened while we were gone. Hell of a week for us to step away, of course, but timing was never our thing. I hope when the notifications come up, they didn't blow your pagers up too bad. I mean, you know. I mean, those things have a tendency to happen, right?
That's what I hear these days.
Watcher, I'm glad you're here with me. We've had Joe in and out this morning. I know he's had
Yeah.
some connection issues. You guys are all centrally located. We may have a wild dawn spotting later on in the show as well. As you guys are all at the same place, where are you guys at exactly, Watcher? Or is that
We're
an
somewhere.
undisclosed location?
Well, we can say we're at somewhere in the backwoods at a very unique cattle ranch, somewhere in the heart of America. I feel actually, you know what? I think I can confidently say that we can say where it is because the
Because
directions
Joe's
to it are on
class.
Joe's website. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're at our good friend Joel's cattle ranch up here in Oklahoma. And I have to say, chat, if I can figure out a way to make this picture load, I'm going to show you the view from outside my tent this morning. It's unbelievably beautiful. Oh, looks like we have a wild Joe. Maybe
Mr. Joseph Dolio.
Yeah, we'll wait. We'll wait for him.
It may take a while to resolve the connection. So like I said, apologies again for taking a kind of. We didn't give you guys a whole lot of warning on it. I had some stuff going on, both professionally and personally, that I had to take care of all at the same time. I'll be out of the woods, hopefully, completely by next month. But we had some good movement on the comic book stuff that I've been working on. I've had some other things that I've been able to work on. So it's been a good time for me. And oh, by the way, my camera for my webcam has died. Literally, the camera was working in the green room when I first connected, but now I'm just a speaking sphere on the side of the stage here. And Joe is back. Joe, can you hear me?
I can.
All right, we got you, brother. How you doing?
I am well and good in sunny Strang, Oklahoma, where we're getting ready to teach a class on community security ops. And so, hey, it's good to be back.
You know, Joe, literally, I've said this numerous times in the last year, but every week, community security becomes a bigger and bigger deal. It's no time like the present to learn about that.
Absolutely right. As I pointed out earlier in the week, you are in an insurgency. You need to start acting that way. So.
Yeah, well, not just an insurgency, but also a collapse. It is happening around you on a daily basis.
And let me clarify something before I end up getting a 4 a.m. visit. When I say you are in an insurgency, I mean a leftist insurgency where you are the victim, not the other way around. So
right, and often, there's definitely some neo-Marxists out there who are choosing violence, but many of them are using information operations and other kind of emotional manipulation to coerce those. Let's be honest. Most people are just trying to live their life. They're not trying to fight counterinsurgency, right? And so they are very susceptible to these manipulation tactics that the left uses. So it's important to be aware of that, and so you can kind of talk to your friends about that. Joe, anything else going on? You've got the class coming up. Any other classes in the near future you want to talk about real quick, or?
He might have gone through another hard patch of signal.
Yeah, nothing hurt. Well, he's also muted, so I don't know. Maybe he's not unmuted. Watch your house. So how's your life going? You've been pretty busy lately too.
Yeah, been very busy. Finally got the insurance money from totaling our vehicle on the way home from Montana, and
Right.
got a cute little old, we'll just say double aught 4-door sedan that's legendarily reliable to just beat the wheels off of this year, because it sounds like I might be coming out to Joel's ranch periodically and making a really, 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 really cool project.
Yeah, you were telling me a little bit about that before the show started. Really looking forward to seeing how that shakes out, because Joel's got an interesting setup there, so it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that.
And if you give me just like 5 seconds, I'm going to have a picture of that view I promised.
Yes. Yeah, the view. Yeah, when we were talking yesterday, I won't say I was shocked, but the view was stunning.
All right, we're just waiting for it to come through the email server side. But yeah, what about you? How's life as a patriot overseas?
Well, it's interesting. I'm waiting for my absentee ballot to come in, because I want to be able to vote and whatnot. So that's one of the things that I'm facing being overseas. But then again, there's a lot of things going on. Goes on break. Yeah, well, I'm not going to say that all this stuff happened just to get us back on the air, but who knows? Maybe it happened just to get us back on the air. Yeah. This looks like some freaking calendar or something like that.
Oh, chat, you could be going to a class here with Joe Dolio, learning how to defend yourself.
Yeah.
But you're sitting over there. Why?
Well, if I were Mr. Dolio, of course, I would be pointing out the great fields of fire in this picture.
We actually used those last night to engage some coyotes with thermal optics, actually.
Yeah.
My thermal is out of batteries, so Watcher, when you go into town, you might want to pick me up some CR123s.
Yeah, make sure you put it in the text chat with all the other stuff that they've asked me to grab. I'll add you to that group.
All right, Cleo.
All right, gents. We've well, at least I can say that I cast it, right? I mean, it's
hey,
just one of
you know what?
things.
Yeah, well, that's true. This is funny. Squishy's got a question for you, Joe. He says, "Are hay bales considered concealment or cover?"
Depends on who's shooting at you and with what. I mean, somebody shooting an arrow at me, I'm good. But there's a guy with a 25 millimeter Bushmaster, no.
Yeah, that's one of those kind of things that the 25 millimeter Bushmaster turns most cover into concealment very quickly.
Facts. All right, gents. Well, we do have kind of an interesting show today, so I won't belabor it too long. But before we move on, can we just comment on that for a moment?
Oh yeah. This is the interesting thing about the Trump, assassins or would-be assassins. Donated to Act Blue. Check. Both starred in a BlackRock commercial. I mean, I'm just saying, there's a lot of coincidences.
Oh, hold on, though. It gets better. It gets better because the Ukrainian Armed Forces says, yeah, he sent us an email or two, but we thought he was crazy and didn't respond. However, he appears in an Azov battalion recruiting video.
Correct.
Yes.
So
yes. And by all accounts, he fought over there in Ukraine.
Also, somebody released footage of the Ukrainian recruitment guy interviewing him. So they definitely went further than email.
Well, and he's done multiple like mainstream media interviews and things like this over here in the States. So I mean, this guy is not what you would call just a wallflower. You know,
He's what you would call a CIA operative. Oops, did I say that out loud?
Wow. My question is like, what happened to all the high tier assets so that we've landed here?
Wow. I mean,
they got to make it believable, right?
Right. They got to employ a couple crazy guys to kind of throw at the problem before, because one of your crazy guys may work out. You never know.
Keep this in mind too. The guy who allegedly, and I say allegedly because I have some serious doubts about this, shot at the traffic on I-75 is still rambling around in the wilderness somewhere. They're keeping that in their back pocket for a reason, right?
Yeah.
And they started talking about him again last night. I mean, I can't imagine. You guys have to think this through logically. I can't imagine why, if I've gotten away scot-free with the shooting I pulled off, why would I leave the only two things that tie it directly to me? They would have never known who I was if I hadn't left my car and my gun behind. Well, yeah, maybe he's already dead and they wanted those things left behind. Anyway, I digress.
I mean, let's just be honest. Even if you're not a conspiracy theorist, quote unquote, there's so much that stinks about this. It's just unbelievable. Speaking of unbelievable, well-armed Corgi, thank you very much. $9.99. I've said it for a year now. Ukraine isn't a U.S. ally. It's a Democratic Party ally. The left may think that's one and the same, but it's not. So I'll take that one step further, and I will say it is a project. It is a project of the tyrannical oligarchs that run the WEF and also the Democratic Party. It's bigger than just the U.S. Democratic Party, but that's definitely a part of it. We were talking about this.
Let me throw.
Go ahead.
Yeah, a while back. Yes. Yeah, but I also wanted to point out that this AK-47 has an obliterated serial number. I would promise you that's probably because it came out of Ukrainian Armed Forces stocks.
Or it was bought by a straw purchase agent that they want to now kind of keep. You know, because my understanding, it was converted to fire full automatic.
Yeah, it was also, from what I've understood from a gun expert who reviewed it, it was a bubbled up SKS.
So it wasn't an AK.
No. The media just saw AK style rifle and ran with it. It was a highly bubbled SKS though, so I understand why people...
like a 30-round magazine, right?
Yeah. With like a very meant to look like an AK magazine, but if you pulled the top out, it's going to have those feed dogs that attach to the lower magazine area for the SKS, because it normally has that 5-round integral magazine.
Anyway, I mean,
but yes.
Yeah, 10 round, right? That's right. At least that's what my Chinese SKS has. Anyway, the point is I never saw a good picture, a good image of that gun, and I guess I just wasn't nerdy enough to really dig into it. But I wouldn't be surprised, Joe, it either came from a suspicious overseas source, or it's that is done to protect the original purchase agent of that weapon.
I have something to say before we move on. It's my autism. I get to pick the special interest. Anyhow,
fair enough. All right. Anyway, so let's move on here. First odds and ends today. NATO, right? NATO. NATO Secretary General drops bomblets on the way out the door. In an interview today, Jens Stoltenberg said the North American alliance really is global. Well, no shit. That's what we've been saying all along. I mean, they've got offices in South Korea, Japan. They've got partnerships all over the world. They have South America. NATO sends people to Colombia. I'm not quite sure what Colombia has to do with North Atlantic, but call me crazy. So, in an interview with Foreign Policy on Monday, outgoing NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg doubled down on his hawkish outlook towards Russia. Stoltenberg says, who has been the NATO chief since 2014 and will be replaced by former Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte in October, indicated that since North Korea, China, and Iran have been supporting Russia in its conflict with Ukraine, that NATO should work more closely with its allies in the Asia-Pacific region. He added, North Korea is providing an enormous amount of, in particular, ammunition to Russia, and a lot of that is transported on railroad, which is crossing the border from North Korea, the land border into Russia, and then all the way to the front lines. And that capacity is quite huge to transport by railroad. There's also reason why it's important to continue to have severe sanctions on North Korea, and also the reason why NATO has stepped up further cooperation with our Asia-Pacific partners that include South Korea, Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. Surprise, surprise, surprise. NATO is a Pacific organization as well.
I still think they should rename it POTATO. Pacific Ocean Treaty and Trade Organization.
Right.
I will say what I've said all along. You can't have your second treaty alliance till you finish your first.
That's right. That's right. I mean, only one at a time, Timmy. The potential for NATO to overextension and that sanctions have not historically worked. Stoltenberg replied, so while NATO is a regional alliance, we need a global approach that includes also our approach to China, yet another country that has nothing to do with the North Atlantic region. Because, again, the war on Ukraine demonstrates that our security is not regional. Our security is global. Well, I mean, I can see that Ukraine is potential relevant to NATO if only it borders other NATO countries. At least that's in the same general vicinity of NATO. Though I would argue that many of the countries that it borders probably don't have much to do with the North Atlantic either. I mean, I know I'm being pedantic with the whole North Atlantic focus,
well, but so am I, because it's actually literally spelled out in the treaty that any action that triggers NATO or triggers Article 5 must occur in a very specific geographic area. And one of the biggest problems we've had with it the whole time is that it would specifically exclude an attack on Hawaii. Well, it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, that's right. So, Joe, I mean, this is like we were saying, we've been talking about this for a while, and my solution to all this is that NATO should have gone away in '94, and then a host of new regional alliances that were more specific to the needs of the countries that took part of them is what should have happened.
Absolutely, because pushing for a global NATO is just a different word for a one world government.
Yeah. I mean, and it's definitely kind of the hedge. They're trying to to create some sort of a hegemony that would allow force expansion, force expression throughout the world, really. No matter where you are in the world, there NATO is.
And before they say it's a global force for freedom, I will point out that the United Kingdom is a member.
Yeah. A global NATO, or a GATO, if you will.
Right. He then added, what happens in Asia matters for Europe. What happens in Europe matters for Asia. Or as the Japanese prime minister said recently, that what happens in Ukraine can happen in Asia today, can happen in Asia tomorrow. He also pushed the narrative that China and Russia were closer than ever, and that's not because NATO has pushed them together, though it's exactly because NATO has pushed them together. You absolutely misread Russia's actions if you think that Russia is not motivated by NATO expansion on up to and including countries that were once part of the Soviet Union. It's because they align in standing of what they believe in a different world order. Well, that's so. The only point that I give to him is that it is true. Russia and China are both authoritarian states with kind of strongman leaders, right? That's all they have in common, though. I mean, these countries are natural adversaries at point of fact. And just because you're authoritarian doesn't mean you like to hang out and be buddy with all the other authoritarians. If anything, another regional authoritarian power is a direct challenge to an authoritarian regional hegemon, because they tend to be less scrupulous in how they govern or in their foreign policy. They're willing to do things that liberal democracies just aren't. All right, then. So there's also a video here. If you could pull this up, it's like, why read the guy's words when we can listen to the words? This is a video from Foreign Policy on X.
I've got it ready. I just needed to. I didn't realize there was a video, so I didn't share it with audio before. Give me just a second.
Yeah, sure.
Bam.
There's a debate underway about whether or not to allow Ukraine to use Western-made long-range missiles to attack Russian territory.
Push pause, please.
Member states.
The other point here that this is something else that developed kind of like in the background, but got overshadowed by other events, is this whole, basically the Western powers trying to talk Washington to allow them to use all of their long-range weapons deep into Russia. And what did Vladimir Putin say, Joe, when they proposed doing this? He basically said what?
He basically said it would be a declaration of war.
Yeah, by NATO against, and then he said that in that case, nuclear weapons would be the kind of option that they would have to turn to against another nuclear power if a nuclear power insists on attacking into its kind of the heart of their country. So this is in relation to this. So this is this cavalier attitude towards pissing off Russia beyond the point at which Russia has clearly said that it would be an act of war. So go ahead and push play.
Are not in agreement on this matter yet. What is your sense of the right answer?
There is no doubt that Ukraine has the right to strike legitimate targets inside Russia. Because we need to remember what this is. This is a war of aggression Russia has launched against neighbor Ukraine. It's a war of choice by Russia. And that's a brutal violation of international law. According to international law, Ukraine has the right to self-defense, and self-defense includes striking targets on the territory of the aggressor, in this case, Russia. At the end of the day, it's up to individual allies to decide to what extent there are restrictions on the use of the weapons they deliver. Some allies have no restrictions, others have some restrictions, and many of them have actually loosened the restrictions over the last months. I have argued in favor of loosening restrictions because I believe that that's the only way Ukraine can actually defend and to also then strike the bases, the artillery, the rocket launchers, the airfields, which are used almost on a daily basis to attack Ukrainian cities, civilian infrastructure, but also, of course, military capabilities. So I welcome the loosening of restrictions on the use of weapons that allies have actually announced over the last months.
He looks forward to the beginning of World War III. I mean,
exactly right. And he's
where
provided
were all of
the
these
message.
anti-war of aggression? Where were all these anti-war of aggression people when the United States invaded Iraq?
right?
Right. And it almost makes sense as to why Dick Cheney has now endorsed Kamala Harris, right?
Well, I mean, that always
it's
made
right in his
sense.
name, Dick.
Oh yeah, maybe he's thinking she'll use the knee pads for him. All right. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of bring that up, just in case you guys weren't aware. There was people debating whether or not we should have World War III while we were gone. So I'm sure more to follow on this, but it is definitely worth noting that is definitely a thing.
You know what else is worth noting, Scott?
Yeah. Yes.
When the FBI takes a major L.
Oh my God, yes. So I want to thank Don. He has I think I saw this before he tweeted it out, but he tweeted it out, I think either 2 different times, or he commented it on it one time and then quote tweeted it the next time. But ultimately, this also kind of has implications for what Don's going through. By the way, if you haven't done it already, check out Don's wife's Skints and Go to support Don and his legal troubles if you haven't done it already. I've been told through the grapevine that members of the bourbon distillery creation team in Kentucky have have taken notice and made anonymous donations. So really glad to see that just a lot of people in the community have come together and supported Don in this. So if you've already...
Speaking of Mrs. Dawn, if I drop out here, it's because I have to make a delivery to her because she's having a rough morning, and she tried to hang with the big dogs and it didn't work out. But I got to drop something off to her. So if I drop out, that's what it is. I want to give a big shout out and a big thanks to our wonderful moderator, Laura Cox. So she dropped into the classes that Matt and I had running the other day. I had a class there. Mech Medic had a class there, and Tony from Wyoming Survival had a class there. So we had about 30, 40 people on site, and she circulated the room giving a speech about Don's plight, and had a couple dudes come up and hand me cash to give to Don, which I have done. So big thanks to her. She is really out there swinging the sword, trying to help raise funds for Don's legal defense. So thank you, Laura.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the link right there that it's in the chat over on Rumble. If one of our mods, Hunter's got it over in YouTube. Hit that link and check it out. And if you don't have 2 nickels to rub together at this point, and you don't have the money, that's cool. But I recommend you go through there and just look at the messages and the amounts and just the general support that Don is getting and continues to get from this audience. And go ahead.
And if I may point out, if you have already given and you don't have any more to give, may I point out another section here, 2 of them, in fact, that are entirely free and are very much appreciated and go towards supporting Don as well. That is share or share a prayer. So let him know you're there behind him.
While we were doing that, I noticed that Joshua Clark shared the link. I have to lodge an official complaint with the Clark brothers because as folks were arriving for class on Friday night, Mr. Dr. Clark, their father, showed up, and I was not aware he was going to be there. You got to give me a heads up when one of my favorite people is going to show up at class. So,
yeah,
fair.
So we had
a good time hanging out with Dr. Clark.
Well, and that's just more of what we've been preaching about for the longest time, Joe, is that, this community is built. We just have to kind of make the connections in the real world. And the easiest way to do that is to come out for one of these events. And let me be honest with you. You can probably, let's say you don't have the money to take the class. Well, I mean, everybody likes people to come out and take the class, but you could just come out probably and hang out for a night or two at most of these things. You know, I would make sure you contact people ahead of time. Don't just show up unannounced, you know, but these are the kind of places that, you know, just because maybe you don't have the money to take, because some of these classes are expensive.
I'll tell you that's absolutely true, because Heathen King from Twitter showed up, hung out for a couple hours, and Laura Cox did too. But I put her to work. I made her role play in my training class. She was a resistance contact. I won't say what the name of the resistance contact was, and Laura knows. But it was a good time.
Just so you're aware, because I know you're on mobile and can't see it, the Clark brothers have both piped up that they have been properly chastised.
Oh, very good, very good.
Let's get on to another major FBIL.
Joe's got we'll see Joe again here, but this video, it's absolutely worth. I don't know. We don't need to watch the whole thing, but I think. You
want to give it some setup?
I think so. Essentially, there was a complaint that the guy said something online, and I'm still not sure what he said.
I'll back up because I know the whole story, and I have physically met this individual and interacted with him multiple times. This is Jeremy Kauffman. He is the leader of the Libertarian Party, or former, I'm not even sure, but he manages their social media page either way. And he got on the Libertarian Party's social media page and he said, and I'm going to paraphrase for YouTube's benefit, but that not calling for someone to commit violence against the Democratic nominee, but he did indicate that he would view anyone who did so as an American hero. And then the FBI showed up at his door to do this within, from what I understand, hours.
Hey there, Jeremy?
Yeah. Who are you?
I'm Major O'Donnell with the FBI.
Can you give your full name, please?
I'm Major O'Donnell with the FBI.
Is that sufficient to identify as only one O'Donnell affiliated with the FBI?
In New Hampshire, yes.
Could you please state your full name, sir?
Could you please stop recording?
No. It's First Amendment right.
Okay.
What's your name, sir?
Could you stop recording, please?
Absolutely not. You can show me your name and identification, or I'm going to go back inside my house.
Okay. I don't really want to broadcast my...
Oh, this is going out right after you guys walk away.
So that's why I'm not...
So you can show me your name and ID. You can walk away.
You just want to broadcast.
I'm not going to talk to people who claim to be federal agents unless they can show me identification.
Okay. You see our badges?
I need to see. Is your full name on that badge?
No.
I'd like to see something with your full name, or I'm not going to talk to
I
you.
prefer you not to broadcast it.
This will be going online as soon as you walk away.
I'm going to pause and say that there are two legal things that he's doing here. A, if you ever have to interact with a federal agent and you have the ability to document every single second of it. B, make it very clear that you will be exercising your First Amendment right to share it immediately, or if you're able to, indicate that it's live streaming currently.
Yeah, right. That's exactly right.
All I want to do is talk to you about the post that was made, and if you
Well,
have either one that made the
I want to talk to you about you guys coming here. Say you make a salary of, I don't know what, low 100K? You guys making six figures? Factor in 50% expenses, overhead, maybe 100% expenses. Talking about burning a couple $100 an hour just here, let alone all the time you guys are spending to investigate something that you know is not against the law, right? Like you're familiar with. So then why would you come?
Because we wanted to make sure that there weren't any.
No, you're coming because you're.
Look,
you're,
hold on,
you're
look,
part of
look.
a regime. That's an
He knows. He knows. That's why he won't look him in the eye.
Yeah.
Embarrassment, man. Didn't you guys read the Constitution? Do you not believe in America? Like, how do you do your jobs and go home?
Well, push pause.
Walk
So My take is the guy on the left there is probably a former either ranger or special operator of some sort. The tattoos, he's got tattoos that go down to his wrist.
Yep, which is why he's got the sleeves rolled down to exactly where they're at and no further.
and he's got the mentality and the demeanor of people that I've run into that have been in that
and he
world.
maintained the haircut.
Yeah, he pretty much, in standards with the haircut. And all those guys know that this stuff is wrong. And, this absolutely may be a case of like, I know I shouldn't be doing this, but this is my job. I have to go do it. But the problem is that runs into your Nuremberg defense, right? I was just following orders. Well, as soon as your orders, violate the constitutional rights of somebody else, then you have a duty to identify that as an illegal order that you won't follow. Oh, well,
true, but it's not as though they've. I get you, but it's not as though they've engaged in an active campaign of literally knocking down and bulldozing.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. Now, here's the problem, though, right? Bogus, judges with an axe to grind, prosecutors that are absolutely political can put papers in front of people who then, who's an FBI agent to say, okay, I wouldn't go to this person's house and knock on their door, but you have put an arrest warrant in front of me that gives me the legal right to do so within the bounds of the Constitution. And all those officers may not be there and be completely aware of all the shenanigans that are going on behind the scenes. The problem is that this is how no-knock warrants occur and how somebody who gets scared in the middle of the night grabbing his gun gets killed because, officers who are just following their, following the orders of their superiors who all have the correct paperwork so that they can say, oh, well, I'm not breaking this guy's constitutional right. We had a warrant. We had a... Well,
honestly, I think that's part of what the COVID purges of the federal government were about, was getting rid of, at least it was the easiest way they could think of to get rid of guys exactly like.
Oh, I agree. I think a lot of the good ones were kind of moved on to other things during that period of time. Joe, you're back. Or are you back? Well,
I kind of am.
Noises. Oh, there he is.
You kind of are. Yeah, we were just talking about this. These FBI agents that come up to this guy's doorstep, and start asking him questions, and
got handed.
Yeah, he got their asses handed to him.
As they have.
We got about half of that, Joe. I think you broke up there a little bit.
Well, hopefully when he reconnects, we can get his take on it. But
but this is just shameful behavior, okay. So are these guys being super? The fact that these guys are the ones that kind of know they're doing the wrong thing. So instead of forcing the issue like morons, they basically try to trap him into saying something that allows them to then do something more, right? That kind of the poking for PC, right?
Yeah. Well, we've got a question from chat here. It's not paid, but it's a good one, so I'll highlight it. When they got back in the car, did they say, wish we didn't do that, or F that guy, we'll get him with something? If you want my opinion on it, the bald one was the second option, and the other one, very quietly to himself, said the first.
Yeah. Dolio's using encrypted audio. Hunt's Dirty Roofer for $10 says, never forget the U.S. state and federal police who locked up American citizens in the 1940s because they look different. Cops are not your friends. Yeah, so here's the other thing too, right? A lot of people are saying, oh, we're seeing these unprecedented, kind of anti-constitutional actions by all these cops and everything like that we've never seen before. That's not true. We've seen all this stuff before. This is not the first time it's happened. It's not the last time it's happened. It's just another iteration of crappy cops doing crappy things to people who don't deserve it. Now, that being said, there are always good cops out there too. The problem is that it's hard to determine which is which, right? Maybe if you know somebody that you're married to or you're family with, or like an uncle or a cousin or somebody like that, somebody that you could actually talk to and get inside their head a little bit. Yeah, you can know for a fact that that guy is a good guy or a bad guy, right? But outside of that, it's impossible to know. And you just have to be cautious and protect yourself in all these situations.
I'd like to, before we move on, there's been a fairly common undercurrent in the chat that's highlighted well by a certain helicopter tour pilot that I'd like to highlight. They say, if you're still working for the FBI, you're plotting against the people. I would argue that at the level a lot of guys are at by the time they get to the FBI, a fairly decent number of them in the mid to low tiers are the exact opposite. I would say they're there because they understand what's happening, and they understand that somebody standing close to the fire has a much better chance of putting it out.
Let's see. The FBI has only existed as a political enforcement arm. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Hoover turned it in. Here's the interesting thing, right? I don't know that the Hoover worked for Hoover was my kind of opinion of that, but it became a political enforcement arm for what Hoover wanted. But later on, it became more of a deep state kind of aligned organization. And I don't know exactly when that occurred, when it basically started doing things that they knew were wrong, but they did it anyway. It's never had I don't disagree with this. I think, the Marshals, like we've kind of talked about this in the past, the Marshals, the Border Patrol, the Coast Guard, the Coast Guard's quasi-military, but, there are a couple others that probably have a very specific purpose that they fill because it's federal in nature versus something that the states wouldn't be able to do. Other than that, the revenuers don't need to exist either. All right. Let's move on to our next option.
I was going to say, much like NATO, our attention is now being pulled to the Pacific. Yeah,
so this is one of those kind of FOMO things for NATO, right? The fear of missing out. Manila pulls ships from Sabine Shoal. So the interesting thing is like 2 months ago, the Sabine Shoal was starting to become the new big hot spot, right? Away from the Scarborough Shoal, which is where they've got the or is it the second Thomas Shoal where they've got the ship that's run aground? This is another shoal close to the Philippines that is under pressure by China. A Chinese Coast Guard spokesperson said the Chinese Maritime Police would continue to carry out law enforcement activities in waters it claims. The Philippines withdrew its Coast Guard vessel from a South China shoal that has recently been at the center of tensions with Beijing. Let's see. One of the Philippines boats was compelled to return to port from the Sabine Shoal due to bad weather, depleted supplies, and the need to evacuate personnel requiring medical care. The Philippine Coast Guard spokesperson said on an X post, the Philippine vessel will be the tip-top shape to resume her mission after it is resupplied and repaired. So, but how long is that going to take? I mean, and how long is this shoal uncovered, and what can China do there while they're gone, right? Who heads the nation's Maritime Council said in a statement earlier yesterday, the ship's pullout could work in Beijing's favor. Yep. China has repeatedly called for immediate withdrawal of Philippines vessels from disputed shoal, including during a diplomatic meeting. Let's see. If I were the Philippines, I would start, increasing the numbers of my actual naval vessels that are taking part in these patrols. And I would start firing warning shots. You have to jealously guard your sovereign territory. Now, the Philippines, interestingly enough, has a a bilateral mutual defense treaty with the United States. And if they were to kind of push back against China a little bit, and China were to draw first blood, then the Philippines could go to the U.S. and say, "Hey, China just attacked us. We're going to call upon our treaty for you to now come in and assist us." I don't know why they wouldn't want to. It's just essentially be the Ukraine for the Pacific, China versus the Philippines. That should be interesting. Good night. The Sabine Shoals recently emerged as a hotspot in the maritime dispute between China and the Philippines as a key U.S. ally. Beijing and Manila have traded accusations of the intent to establish a permanent presence at the Coral Atoll. Chinese Coast Guard spokesperson in a statement on social media said the Chinese Maritime Police would continue to carry out law enforcement activities in the waters under Chinese jurisdiction in accordance with the law and would resolutely safeguard the nation's territorial sovereignty and maritime rights and interests. Watcher, this is one of those kind of things, our good buddy Jim has given us a lot of analysis on this. And I'll be honest with you, most of what he's talked about has kind of been right on the money.
Yeah. No, I have learned to trust him in just about anything he says, particularly when it comes to Asia.
Yeah, Asia Pacific. He's pretty dialed in when it comes to China and the Philippines. Joe, you're back.
I am.
We're talking the South China Sea, the Sabine Shoal, and the fact that the Philippines have pulled back their Coast Guard vessel from that area, leaving it basically uncovered.
They should. It's Chinese territory, according to what I've heard.
Yeah, according to the -9 line, and the fact that it's 90 miles from the Philippines or something like that.
It's absolutely silly. China's going to continue to push their claims throughout that region, and no one's going to push back against them.
Well, the thing that I've said is that the Philippines literally needs to grab its nutsack and start using its Navy, start using things, aggressive measures like warning shots and things like this to warn these Chinese vessels off. And if China attacks the Philippines has always got. See, Ukraine doesn't have a treaty with us. If a country that we actually have a treaty with gets attacked by a big country, imagine how much money they would get. I mean, they would get trillions of dollars. If they found themselves in that position.
Facts.
There's no dispute there.
Well, and the other thing too is the irony is that the administration of Biden and Harris would absolutely have a rock solid reason to go and help their friend, right? Hey, we're actually treaty partners with the Philippines. We have got to go in and help them, right? If you needed a war, that's a war that actually has some justification behind it, not some. I mean, because we have zero connection to Ukraine outside of some emotional connection that this isn't fair and we've got to defend them. I don't get it. I mean, you guys know. I mean, I'm no fan of this Russia war with Ukraine, but at the same time, we've got no business in Ukraine. Where is the one place in the world that I've said there's a country that we actually have an interest in balancing against in a very strong way? That's China, right? That's the one country in the world that we should actually be actively balancing against and pushing into their neighborhood in order to keep them, I hate to say it, but keep them down because the last thing you want is to have another power that can challenge you directly.
Well, and we have a historical link to the Philippines. We founded them after the Spanish-American War.
Yep.
Douglas MacArthur was the general of their army until the beginning of World War II. So we've got an actual strong historic tie with the defense of the Philippines, including MacArthur's claim that he would be back, and he was. So I think it makes sense there way more than it does in the Ukraine.
Yeah, 100%, Joe. It just doesn't. It just none of this foreign policy that I'm seeing come out of the deep state makes any damn sense.
Well, unless the goal, of course, is to burn it all down, then it makes perfect sense.
Well, right. That's exactly right. Watcher, final thoughts on China, Philippines?
Yeah. Weird dichotomy where I don't think on the one hand, I feel like we should honor our commitments. You know what I mean? We've made commitments to these countries. They've made choices around their defense based on those commitments. It feels wrong. It feels like a continuation of terrible things we've done to a lot of other people for a very long time, to just abandon them. But at the same time, I'm kind of done with our country going to fight everybody's battles. So it's a weird, it pulls me in two directions kind of subject. And I believe that China has to be stopped, right? So I don't know that we have the ass to keep up with the checks that we've written. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah,
I think you're 100% right. And I think that that Chinese aggression in the South China Sea will naturally progress to the west coast of the United States. Russian aggression in Eastern Europe in her own traditional possessions, let me say that again, in her own traditional possessions, will not expand onto the east coast of America. So one is an actual risk and one is not. So,
yeah, no, you're right. You're actually right, Joe. And here's the funny thing, right? Most countries don't want, let's see, wars are really expensive. And in some cases, they're ruinously expensive. Most countries don't want to get in a war. And it also destabilizes the country internally and can cause all kinds of trouble, right? Most countries don't want to go to war because it's just easier not to. But China is a great example of a country that's willing to go right up to the edge, right? And then maybe go to war. But they also probably most likely don't want to go to war. They want something less than war, right? And if we just lay down, they'll take every little salami slice that they can pick up for free, right? But if you push back against them, that slows their roll. That makes them be a little more deliberate. That makes them, pull back from some of the low-hanging fruit, maybe that they think that they can take for free. Look what happened. Look at India's a great example. India actually pushes back against China, kind of at an equivalent level along all of those border regions, right? And in the past, China has seized border regions from India, but over recent years, since India has been a lot more forceful, and now they're not going over the top, they're not bringing a gun to a club fight, but they've successfully kind of stymied China's salami slicing tactics in India in the last few years. Now, I don't know if that will hold up, but it is there, right? That is an example. Strong foreign policy and the leadership to actually use the levers of power that you have against an adversary is 100% what is needed here, and we just don't have it. And we sure as hell won't have it if Kamala Harris becomes president. Sorry about. I'll get off my soapbox now, but
no, you're good, brother. That's what we're here for.
All right. Anything else on this China business?
We should be giving China the business.
Don't trust China. China is asshole.
Yeah, amen, brother. Before we jump into our main topic today, Joe, you want to kind of run down classes you got coming up or anything you've been writing lately?
Well, it's been kind of a crazy couple of weeks. I've been on the road for a rather extensive length of time. So don't have much written, but we will get something written this week. There is a good breakdown over at if you go over to Father Abraham has a new site up. I'll drop the link in here because I don't have it right in front of me. But it's a great link that lists all the classes that I have coming up and some more detailed information on the classes than what is available on my website. I wasn't ready for the question, so I didn't have it in front of me, but I'll get it here in a minute.
Okay.
We've got classes coming up. I think right now the main one I have coming up that actually has the most people in it is going to be Tennessee, first weekend in November. But the other classes, there are some on the schedule that are probably going to get removed because there's no one registered. So
Yeah,
check out
that's frustrating, right?
tacticalwisdom.com. So yeah,
It's
it's even more frustrating now that I'm instead of 1,000 miles, I'm now 2,000 miles from where these classes are. And if there's only one guy or no guys, I'm not going to be coming out for that class.
Yeah, right. Then that makes sense, right? You gotta make economic sense for you. So we all understand that, but because we want more classes, Joe, not less classes. But
hey, listen, Matt has already committed to the same week in Montana that we had the big class last year that drew so many people. So late
cool.
April, early May, there will be another brush beater and tactical wisdom week where you can, I think this time you'll be able to attend 4 different classes, 2 of his and 2 of mine, and get it all done in about 12 days rather than having to take 2 complete weeks off. It'll wrap around 2 weekends, right? And the week in the middle. So it'll be pretty good.
Maybe we need to schedule some sort of event for the weekend, kind of like a hangout or something.
Sure.
I don't know. That's just me throwing spitball in there. It's not a thing yet. So we'll have to talk about that. Of course, I won't be able to make it there, but
I was going to say it all depends on when you can get there. And I'll be honest, beginning here in about a week, anyone who knows where that Montana facility is, every weekend is a hangout with Tactical Wisdom weekend at Camp Ponderosa. So get on out there. Check out the Northwest Montana Veterans Food Pantry. Yeah. It's veteransfoodpantry.org and support that great organization.
Yeah, I got to meet those guys when I came out there. Really impressed both with the facility and the folks running that place. Super nice people, salt of the earth, and of course they got a great guy running the place for them now. So I can't say enough nice about him. So.
Well, that's what I heard, but I wouldn't ask his wife this week.
That's right. That's right.
And for the record, our friend Stan did not help me out when we were standing at Shield Arms, and she pointed out that I would be abandoning her to go on the road to teach classes. And he said, "You're absolutely right. He is abandoning you." I was like, "Thanks, Stan. That was helpful. That was
well. It's only worse if he hands her a Scald Coffee gift card while he's over. Make sure you come on down to the coffee shop.
Yeah, that's trouble.
Right.
You know what though? Fun fact though, for your wallet, the closest Hobby Lobby is a very long distance.
Oh, don't worry. She's already looking at. She knows exactly where it is, and a company in the area is pursuing her to work right across the street from the Hobby Lobby in Michaels. So my life did not get any better in that regard.
Oh no!
But I can always tell her I'm coming to go to lunch with her, and there's a Cabela's right there. So.
Oh, there you go.
Stuff.
All right, gentlemen. Let's move on to our main topic for today. This is an interesting one because I'll be honest with you. We kind of called this, Joe. If you remember back to the first assassination tip, it's just a matter of time before somebody does it again. And, it couldn't look more. It can't. Well, hold on. It couldn't look more suspicious if you tried.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Well, but I do have to say I'm not so proud of that prediction because it was a lot like predicting, hey, if you fall out of your canoe, you'll get wet.
Right.
It's like when there's thunder and lightning outside, you're like, hey, it might rain. But I'm going to point out, though, that this coincides directly with her debate performance, then we have another attempt on his life. It's going to get more frequent, not less. This is not, okay, the second one happened, now we're done. If you look at leftist Twitter or Facebook, they are absolutely bemoaning this assassination attempt, and only because it was an attempt and not an assassination.
Yeah.
So watch for more crazies.
Hey, before we jump into this, I want to catch up. I've got a couple super chats that we haven't read yet. I just want to kind of knock them out. So over on YouTube, towards the beginning of the show, Hunch the Dirty Roofer for $2 says, "How many green shirts are present, Watcher?"
Oh, I think he just means shirts in general.
Yeah,
shirts
he just means shirts in general. So, Watcher, have you shaved your head and are you wearing no shirt? Speaking of which, Joel literally just drove by me wearing no shirt.
Of course he did.
It's about half and half on the ranch right now, I'd say.
All right. Now go
the
ahead.
rotating South African is shirtless though.
All right, look. Ooh.
What's his name, Watcher?
Oh, Kyle.
Oh, it's a different one.
Yeah, they get a new one every couple months.
All right.
Over in the Rumble chat, gentlemen, we have a $1 super chat. Watched heavy metal for the first time in 10 years. Seeing what we had in 1981, I can say that we have fallen so far in terms of our American animation. We used to have a proper country. Ironically enough, Watcher, 2 days ago, I had a conversation, and you want to know what the topic of, well, not the only topic, but one of the topics of that conversation was?
I think I know, partially based on an email that I got, but yeah, is there a certain amazing property going to be produced in animation in America?
Well, actually, you're thinking of the other property. I'm thinking about my property, the one that my contact said that there is interesting news on that front, and that's all I'm going to say.
Excellent, that's exciting.
So very cool. So who knows? There may be some cool American animation properties coming down the roads at some point. It probably will never happen, but if there's a 5% chance, that would be amazing.
I will say that I have been properly chastised for not bringing books out here because I've already been asked if people could buy them, and I completely forgot.
God damn it, Watcher.
I know.
Yeah, and I don't have any of Scott's with me right now either. So, because they're all in a shipping container on its way to Montana. So.
All right. Coggins Phil 431 for $5 says the FBI is the epitome of saying power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. That's a good example. And Coggins Phil 431 for $10 says, remember the time when Bill Clinton admitted that the annex of Hawaii was illegal to get the UN to remove it from their list of illegally occupied territories? Pepperidge Farms remembers. All right.
Oh. Well, gents, I want to put an over-under on this. I think the next attempt will be within the month.
Oh, absolutely. It's only going to get worse from here on out. I think you're going to see more things happen. This is what I think is happening as far as the Secret Service. The agents who have been with him the whole time, his personal detail, are loyal to him. And it's everyone else who gets assigned to the detail from the local field office, wherever he is, that dropped the ball. Now, we have to decide, is that intentional or not? I'm firmly convinced that the Pennsylvania case was that they learned about an assassination attempt and someone decided to remove every hurdle possible and wrote the orders such that that area would be open for this guy to use. Is that the case here? I can't imagine there was not an advanced team holes ahead of the president poking in the brush. There should have been.
Here's the other thing too, Joe. This guy, how did he know Donald Trump's schedule? This was not a public event.
That's exactly right. No, somebody leaked it.
Exactly right. It's unpublished, and he knew he would be there.
Yeah. All right. In another part of the book, let's see. Hold on a second. Let me go back here. Ryan Wesley Routh, a 58-year-old man arrested on Sunday for allegedly trying to kill former President Donald Trump, said in a book he published in February 2023 that he looked forward to World War III and hoped he could burn down the Kremlin. Okay, well, that's not crazy at all. I do dream of the day that we would cross over into Russia and march towards Moscow. That is the part of the Third World War that I look forward to the most. The nuclear bombs dropping on America probably is the part that you don't want to think about. Huh?
Well, also,
everyone's
going to get a good peppering.
Yeah.
Well, the folded gap is probably an easier target than a gap between this dude's teeth. But anyway, the real thing is this: everyone wants to talk about the nuclear threat. In our current and modern society, nuclear is one of my least biggest concerns. My biggest concern is a hack destroying our electrical grid. That's way easier to pull off, has less long-term ramifications internationally because you didn't irradiate everything around, and less blowback potential. They can make that happen and it'd be unattributable, especially when you look at the fact that they're out probing around the undersea network cables right now. So,
yeah, that's a great point, Joe. By the way, Laura Cox, our favorite Don supporter, is in the chat. Thank you for all the hard work you're doing on Don's behalf, Laura. You're a saint.
You are the one shining example that proves that mods don't always have to be gay.
Of course, then Rick Duke of Malta, is like, it's like that whole. I mean, is it just me, or is Rick's comment something that could be taken in many different ways?
It is, but I think he was talking about the whole and thinking. About
I know. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, Joe, for me, it's less a hack and more an EMP. That would be so easy for, it's like we always talk about EMP being something that like North Korea or some terrorist state would try on the US, but ultimately, Russia absolutely could do that fairly easily. That is, as really the only other space peer state with us in the world. That's something
but here's the thing: I don't have to use an EMP to do it. And an EMP would have some sort of a signature that is attributable. If I could do it through a hack, they can't actually recreate those chains because they don't have any electricity to do so.
And it would be a real shame if multiple independent, we'll just call them red team members, people who are hackers that are trying to detect vulnerabilities in our own system to try and patch them, have been screaming at the top of their lungs for over 3 decades that our entire infrastructure is completely unsecure.
Yeah, and that's more than just electrical. It's electrical, water, gas, everything.
Yeah,
hey, by the way, I don't know if we talked about it in the odds and ends because I was delivering blueberry muffins to Mrs. Workman. But does anyone see the vehicle smashes through gate and strikes critically important part of a pipeline?
No,
and then it all blew up.
Yeah, and then it blew up.
It was an accident, I'm sure. So
So what was it? Natural gas pipeline?
Yes, this of course after about 2 weeks after a national pro-Palestinian organization says that we need to up militancy and attacks on infrastructure. So draw your own conclusions.
Yeah. All right. Let us continue on with this article. So another part of the book, Routh criticized Trump for pulling out of Iran nuclear deal and said that he must share blame for voting for the former president. I must take part of the blame for the retarded child that we elected for our next president that ended up being brainless. But I am man enough to say that I misjudged and made a terrible mistake. And Iran, I apologize. So it's like
I'm not sure this is a different thing though, because we've essentially gone from insane man begs for World War III to insane man upset he didn't did something to back us away from World War III.
I'm sorry, but if you honestly believe that man voted for Trump and then tried to kill him, you're not paying any attention here.
There's that too.
Ralph went on to say that Iran could assassinate both Trump and himself. You are free to assassinate Trump as well as me for that error in judgment, he wrote. In the book and in social media posts, he repeatedly expressed his wish to fight in Ukraine against the Russian military. In 2022, he traveled to Ukraine, but said in an interview that he was too old to fight. I don't believe that. They would put a gun in anybody's hands. Ralph said his plan B was to help recruit people from around the world for Ukraine's Foreign Legion. In an interview with Semaphore in 2023, Ralph complained that Ukraine didn't want to take Afghan soldiers. Most of the Ukrainian authorities do not want these soldiers. I have had partners meeting with Ukraine's Ministry of Defense every week, and they still have not been able to get them to agree to issue a single visa. I mean, you know, if you're going to hire stateless mercenaries, Afghan would be as good as any. But I can't imagine an Afghan would want to go to war in these conditions, honestly.
Particularly against the Russians, it didn't go very well the first time.
Right, exactly right.
Well, there's the possibility that there's some guys we trained up that made it out that are just trying to find a way to make a living now.
Well, honestly, they probably have a better luck finding work in England. I think England took in a whole bunch of Afghan commandos. And then, shockingly enough, a big segment of the part of the army that was still around in the east at the fall of Kabul just rolled into Iran and basically hired on with the Iranians.
Hey, Patrick asks a very valid question right there.
Where's that? I don't see it. Oh, the one that I have up here right now. Patrick 7, member for 12 months. My question is how this guy, a multiple felon with gun charges, able to leave the country and go to Ukraine. Yeah, that is a great point. And shocking that you know, he was able to get a gun as a felon over here. I mean, all the stuff that, gun control is supposed to keep us from happening, right, Joe? All these gun laws that he broke.
Well, and you're not allowed to use a passport in that condition, and most countries won't allow you in. Unless, of course, you come in on a diplomatic visa because you work for a government.
Right. In a follow-up article published on Sunday after the arrest, Semaphore said that when they interviewed Ralph, he was a head of a group called the International Volunteer Center. The article cited a Ukrainian involved in foreign recruitment, said that Ralph was even by the standards of the frantic moment a bit over the top. But Ukrainian also said that Ralph was authentically involved in efforts to bring in foreign troops. Since his arrest, Ukraine's Foreign Legion has distanced itself from Ralph. Oh, no shit. We would like to clarify that Ralph has never been part of or associated with or even linked to the International Legion in any capacity. Really? Okay. It's not surprising, I guess, that you would say that. Stephen Pettijohn for $5 said, who's paying this guy? Reportedly, he only makes $3K a month and is a world traveler. Makes you want to say, yeah, it's a good question, right? But then again, it's just, Laura Cox, that has already been floated as one of the options that could be the paymaster for this guy, but who knows? Joe, any thoughts on how this 3K a month earner is a world traveler?
Yeah, someone's funding his. That's
travel. Right.
It belongs to an organization. It belongs to a union trade organization called the Clowns in America, and they do things all over the world. So, sorry, I had to get out of the comment to hug this man who's wandering around my campsite here. So,
no worries. All right, let's move to the next story here. We were talking about the fact that this guy had been both he and the previous assassin were in propaganda videos. This is Azov appearing in a propaganda video for Azov in May of 2022. Not her.
Which, funnily enough, even Azov is disowning him.
There he is. Look at that. Yeah, that's the guy.
Come back. Stupid thing. Yeah, let me pull it down and reload it.
And then that's not the BlackRock commercial, is it? Isn't there another one that's a BlackRock
Negative.
commercial?
That's what I've heard, but we don't appear to have it in the notes.
Okay, that's no worries. But this just gives you an example. This guy was way out there before anything with this assassination ever occurred. Let's see the next one. So I think this is interesting. This is an interesting headline. CNN worries that Trump assassination attempts are helping him politically. Oh, if you're gonna go for it, you have to hit. You can't miss him. Otherwise, it makes him more popular. Come on. You know, this is literally what
that is literally CNN saying, I wish one of you would kill him.
Yes, exactly right. Yes, exactly right. And they were both wearing BlackRock t-shirts. Yeah, Stormy had it right there. Former Obama administration official turned CNN shit talker expressed a concern Sunday that all those pesky failed attempts to assassinate Donald Trump are helping him politically. Yes, really. Juliet Kayyem, a former Department of Homeland Security official under Obama, labeled the situation a problem and an unfortunate because it is making Trump more popular. I really don't care what you feel about him or Harris. He added, I mean, this is the expectation that he will be safe. And the reason why this is, in some ways, you said how close the election is. The problem is a safety issue that is being thrown into a very tense political environment in which the very fact of an assassination, a constitutional moment, because it could have impacted voters, will be used for political purposes.
I'm sorry, that was a lot of doublespeak.
I know, right? I loved it. But the point is that, all the assassination attempts will give him political traction. No shit. I mean, truer words are never said. I can't believe we've actually found a leftist who knows how to parse that. Now, if only they could figure out how to talk.
Well, then they're going to say that he's staging them for this very reason, which is also nonsensical.
And she goes on to say this is exceptionally unfortunate because whenever your beliefs are, we do deserve to have campaigns that are not part of where violence is being used as either sword or a shield. And I agree with that. I don't think that political violence should be part of our election campaigns. If that were the case, then if we said everybody gets like 10 assassination attempts, right, per side, then there wouldn't be any Democratic political candidates left. So that wouldn't be fair. So I don't think that violence should be part of the political equation. I do think that we should that service should guarantee citizenship, though. So we should limit the franchise. And they, of course, show the video here. We are not going to look at the video because I don't want to listen to her. Wolf Blitzer. Yeah, so let's listen to what Wolf Blitzer had to say here because Trump War Room shares it, and they usually share funny stuff here. Right. This one right here coming up. There's a video just below right there. Play that one.
Sorry, my internet's a little slow.
That's all right.
Here we go.
Any sound? There we go.
Which is absurd on its face.
And it's interesting, SE, as Amisha just said, the Trump campaign is seizing on this apparent assassination attempt as a way to rile up his base. But how do you see it? How do you see independent and swing voters who are so critical in these battleground states right now reacting?
Which is absurd on its face.
Just asking how they're reacting? Okay. Maybe there's another video. Maybe I grabbed the wrong one.
No, I thought it was longer, but it's only 19 seconds. So, but clearly what they're talking about there is just how, they're using this to rile up their base. Well, yeah, when the other side literally tries to assassinate your guy, you use that as an example of the really sane people they have supporting Kamala Harris.
Here's what's funny is they will claim that the right are dangerous extremists. But has there been an attempt made on Kamala or Joe?
No, absolutely not. And you're exactly right, Joe.
Huh. Weird.
Let's see. Yeah, and then the Secret Service on this one, it seems like they're kind of like, taking a win. Like this is a big, W for them, but it's really an L. Laura Cox says, I'm not sure why the Secret Service is doing a victory lap about this. The acting director should be fired. Yeah, this guy's all bluster. I don't know if you've seen his, because we're gonna. That's actually a great segue to our next story here. Secret Service director makes cryptic reference coming to geopolitical event, kinetic conflict that could endanger the U.S. leaders. What did the Secret Service chief mean by the comments, the below comments? Let's go ahead and this video. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this is the video. It's about a minute. Let's listen to the video and then we'll kind of go through this.
All right, pulling it up.
Coming out of Butler, I have ordered a paradigm shift. The Secret Service's protective methodologies work, and they are sound, and we saw that yesterday. But the way we are positioned right now in this dynamic threat environment, it has given me guidance to say, you know what? We need to look at what our protective methodology is. We need to get out of a reactive model and get to a readiness model. There could be another geopolitical event that could put the United States into a kinetic conflict or some other issue that may result in additional responsibilities and protectees of the United States Secret Service. And so we are working, we are making information available to all of our partners. And I just want to say that the commitment of Congress to the Secret Service throughout the years has been tremendous. And we will continue to work with them and Secretary Mayorkas, whose support in making sure that we're getting what we need has been phenomenal.
Oh my God. So what do you think he meant by that, Joe?
Well, I'm not going to go that far over the edge because he said potential. He didn't say it's coming up down the road. It's not wrong to be thinking that there's potentially a war that would come up, but I don't know what he means by an increase in the number of protectees. They are mandated to only protect certain people, and that is the president, vice president, speaker of the House, and that's not even full time. That's only when in kinetic events. But there's really not that many more people. They are. It was a very cryptic statement, but I'm not going to read into it as much as what others did because that is part of his job to plan for that.
Yeah.
But I do notice he broke out the Mayorkas knee pads, and actually everyone in the Secret Service that I know has been unhappy with the move to DHS from Treasury. When they were in Treasury, they were a truly independent agency, right? We're completely outside of the Department of Justice. We're completely outside of Homeland Security. We just do the two things that we do. One, financial crimes, and two, protection. And that was a better role for them. Now being under Secretary Mayorkas, there's a little bit more of a political aspect to what they do.
Huh. So look at the link that Laserham shared, Watcher, in the Rumble chat. This is I guess breaking news. This is the 18th, so today your time. Cops find explosives in car near Trump's rally on Long Island after second assassination attempt. This is the first I've heard of this. I can't imagine this is going to.
I'm pretty surprised.
True. Say that again, Joe. I'm sorry, you're breaking up a little bit.
Two things. One, I've got to step out. But two, I can't believe we made it through Flint, Michigan without an issue last night. So.
Right. Exactly right. And Jay Clark, you're absolutely right. The fact that he's
I got to jump off. There's something going on here. So.
All right. We'll see if you can come back, Joe.
Yep, we'll see.
So he says, Jay Clark, 45 over in Rumble says he's thanking Mayorkas because Mayorkas is helping him defy congressional oversight. That's exactly right. How do you know not to trust him? Because he's thanking Mayorkas. If he's thanking Mayorkas, then you're absolutely right. He should not be trusted. Cops find explosive in car near Trump rally on Long Island after second assassination attempt. Police reportedly find explosives in a car near former President Trump's rally site on Long Island ahead of a speech on Wednesday evening. It is confirmed it would be the latest shocking security breach and comes just 3 days after the would-be assassin was arrested at his Palm Beach golf club. Sources in Nassau County Police Department allegedly told One American News Network journalist James Lalino that the rally site perimeter was breached and a blue barrel was removed. In addition, during canine sweeps, they apparently found an explosive device in one of the vehicles. The sources allege that the driver ended up running into the woods. No one saw if he had anything on him, just saw him take off running. A lot of cars are now parked. They're lining up at the Hempstead Turnpike, just parking on the grass, even over the Eisenhower Park. So can you look, Watcher, and see if there's anything on X about this? Because I've just not heard about this.
Sure. Yeah, looking around.
And Chad, if you guys see anything and have any other insight into this, I would be interested to know too.
Yeah. Breaking from Colin Rugg. Police find explosives in car near Donald Trump rally site on Long Island where he is speaking. This event, never mind. That's all according to the same person, James Lalino.
Okay, so that's.
Oh, you know what? There's video. Hold on. Let me display this.
Hey, is that you right there in the front?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So it looks like they are showing police escorting people out, but everybody's calm and chipper.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, anyway, so this is absolutely not surprising at all, but it's disappointing to see that this kind of stuff is continuing.
Yeah. Look, I hate to say this, but the other side of this is going to start happening, and I think they're going to do it specifically to try and dampen the people who show up physically to support him at rallies. But I don't think Trump is the only target. And I'll let that lie.
Yeah. Well, I think they'd love to kill some of his, his supporters, and, it would just be a nice mess, right? But here's the thing. If you kill Trump supporters at a rally, like you target the rally versus just targeting Trump, that's absolutely going to bring more support to Donald Trump.
I mean, yes and no. My thought is he's constantly rubbed it in their eyes that he can drum up visible physical support anywhere in the country that he goes. He can get crowds of thousands, and I think that really has stuck in their craw over time, particularly as their ability to do so has been incredibly diminished. Think back to the Joe Biden campaign videos where they tried to mask everything up with COVID by placing the 10 people who showed up, 10 feet apart in separate chairs with circles drawn around them. I think that it really has stuck in their craw, and I think that legitimately people going to the rally are targets just to try and make other people think twice about going to the rally.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong about that. All right, let's move on to can I just say that I talking to somebody here very recently in the last few moments about happy places, right? This next story is my happy place. Pager detonation wounds thousands, majority Hezbollah members in suspected cyber attack.
I'm going to back up. So there's a lot of notes coming out of this, and I've heard of this a lot in our chat. How do I know my cell phone's not just going to explode in my pocket? Because that wasn't a cell phone battery detonation. That wasn't a pager battery detonation. Those have very specific things that they do. Mostly you'd see guys with third-degree burns and not much else. Like, I'm not saying it's great, but this was not just a cyber attack and then did it. No. They planted explosive devices in those pagers and then made sure that they made it to Hezbollah.
Yeah. These pagers were booby trapped and then funneled to Hezbollah members, and the civilians that were injured as well. Either A, were playing with the pager of a Hezbollah member, or they were in close proximity to the Hezbollah member when it went off. Pager detonations wound thousands, majority Hezbollah members in suspected cyber attacks. Lebanese health officials estimate up around 4,000 wounded, with 200 in critical condition and 11 killed. My understanding is many of the ones in very serious, have eye injuries because they put the pager up to their face to check it when it blew up.
And that is another point that lets you know that this wasn't just a battery explosion. A battery explosion, if you are holding a pager up to read it, is not close enough to throw fragments into your face, guys. Like, especially not with the amount of casualties and the seriousness of the casualties that they're talking about. There is a lot of energy stored in your battery. It can go boom. You wouldn't want to be present when it happens. It's probably not going to blow your hand off, though, or shoot friggin' shrapnel into your face.
Yeah, and guys, I see.
Caravaggio wants to say, wonder what the message said. I'm pretty sure it was something like "Shalom, motherfucker,"
or say the 71 versions or something like that. And so Svenstead and a couple others in the chat have mentioned that this is actually another wave has just started here not too long ago. And that there are, if you go to Mario in the Fall, 19 minutes ago, he's got footage of another one happening live. A blast occurs during the funeral of 4 Hezbollah operators killed in last night's explosion. So there's video of that if you want to pull that video up.
I'm pulling it up right now. But the other brilliant part of this is
I've got the link if you need it.
Okay. Appreciate you. I think I just got it. This is.
Well, it's in the private chat if you don't have it.
Is it the scooter?
No.
Okay. Well, let me.
It looks like
because he's got several videos now.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna look at many of them, but.
Oh man.
So this okay, just real quick. Let me set this up.
Think about how this disrupts.
Oh, a second. Let me set this up. So we all know about what happened yesterday, right? All these pagers went off, and these are specifically Taiwanese pagers with explosives in it. So what you're getting ready to see here is video from a funeral, a Hezbollah funeral, and it started happening again during these funerals. So, embiggenous, and let's watch this video here.
That was not a cell phone battery explosion. I'm sorry.
Yeah, did you see that one?
Yeah, I did. That was absolutely not a cell phone battery explosion. That was not a lithium-ion battery explosion. That was a small explosive device.
Yeah. So evidently, these are not the same pagers as yesterday. So blast occurred during the funeral of 4 Hezbollah operatives killed in last night's explosions. This looks like a kind of an ICOM radio is what they're showing evidence of blowing up.
I'm sorry, but that ICOM would definitely not be completely intact like that. I suspect they probably grabbed a similar radio and pulled the battery out of it so that the same thing couldn't happen.
I suspect what happens is the explosive was in the battery pack.
I think you're right, but what I'm saying is I don't think it would
Well,
have just blown this intact face piece off without mangling it.
well, but then if you look below, there's another one that where the radio is much more damaged. Right there, that one in the
Yeah.
corner.
That's what I'd expect to see after an explosive device like that.
Reports from Lebanon confirm communication devices used by Hezbollah exploded in the country's south and Beirut suburbs. One of the blasts occurred near a funeral, members killed in the previous incident. Reports are coming in of fires, extensive damage from blasts, but they are unconfirmed at this time.
Ooh, T's got some news that I had also seen. Various people are saying that it was 20 grams of PETN with a copper liner.
Well, the interesting thing is that, several people were saying that they didn't think it was explosives because certainly one of these guys took one of these pagers through an airport screening kind of at some point. But I don't know that that's the case.
I don't think so either. I think they probably got shipped to them and then they distributed them.
They're just staying in country. Nobody's going through, security there.
Blaine Pardo says word on the street is Kamala just sent Trump a pager as a gift.
Exactly right. Hey, by the way, Blaine, check your email. There got something for you. It got two things for you to read actually. So I don't know if you've seen them yet, but if you have any questions, hit me up in the DMs. All right. According to the interview I heard, Mossad discovered that Hezbollah was going to buy a bulk order of pagers to avoid cell phone use. The Intercepted said bulk order. Yeah, exactly. And supposedly there were over 4,000 pagers. So it was a staggering number of these pagers. There's a scooter that was on that caught on fire here that I see. So several. So this has just happened in it looks like the last hour. So let's get back on to what happened yesterday. Let me find there we go. Okay.
If I may, real quick, while you're finding that, I'd like to answer a question I see repeatedly happen in the chat, which is, how do I prevent this from happening to me? Well, you're not a large organization, and if you are, don't place bulk orders under the name of your organization like that if somebody's trying to target you and you know it. But secondly, if you're an individual, take the same strategy that crypto guys that are making new coins take when they need to get a computer that they know has not been previously intercepted and had software planted on it. You pick a random electronics store several cities away from you that you've never ever visited before. You do not call in advance. You show up and you buy something off the rack. Do not let them go to the back to grab it. Don't do anything like that. You grab one that you verify is just a random one out in the public.
Yeah. All right. Moving on, Iranian ambassador to Lebanon was reportedly wounded in the explosions, according to Iranian state-owned Mir News, as were a variety of senior Hezbollah officials.
Hold up. This is something I knew was going to come because this is something I've seen from people that I generally respect in our space, but it's an absolutely retarded take. I am coming after you a little bit here, Requited. Sorry. The problem is they had no way to pick the targets. This was a pure terrorist attack. Wrong. Hezbollah selected the targets themselves. You see, they knew it was Hezbollah's radio order. They planted the explosives in those specific radios and then allowed Hezbollah to distribute it to their own members.
Right. So Hezbollah basically, and this is the reason why they said that this is much higher checking, the rate of people actually checking, because this was their Hezbollah pager, right? They may have two pagers or they may have a cell phone and then this pager, but basically they knew exactly who was getting these. Now, there were civilians both injured and killed. And so how does that happen? Well, Hezbollah has families too, right? And so if you're the wife or kid of a Hezbollah terrorist, nobody can guarantee your safety. And especially if your terrorist father lets his teenage daughter carry his Hezbollah pager around. Not smart, guys.
Correct, Dave. Yeah, it's almost as though other people are around Hezbollah members, and that that kind of makes you a target.
Right. Now, that being said, if you just happen to be standing next to a Hezbollah guy in the grocery store or something like that, and you get a little shrapnel from it, then yeah, that's unfortunate. But I mean, I'll take this surgical use of that over what's happening in Gaza any day of the week.
Correct. And Requited is coming back with hospitals and others use pagers. Yes, but they don't use pagers issued by Hezbollah. They buy their own pagers for the hospital and issue them from the hospital. See, that's how the targeting was done, is they intercepted Hezbollah's order of several thousand pagers and radios and rigged them with explosives. This is why the narrative that this was a battery explosion is not only false, but harmful. They didn't just send out a signal that made every pager in a square mile explode.
All right. Random PNW guy 84 for $10 says, can we go back for a minute? If we are seeing VBED near a Trump rally, do you guys think that there will be attacks at polling places in red and purple areas like early Iraq and Afghanistan? I honestly don't think that that's the way they're going to go. Here's the thing, right? I don't think there is a mass movement of terror against Trump voters yet. Now, I'm not saying that that can't happen, but I'm just not seeing any evidence of that yet. What this seems to be is very targeted kind of stuff that is, it seems to be probably assisted standalone complex kind of guys, right? These are either agents, they are assets that have developed in the kind of the crazy bubble, the crazy left-wing bubble, and then they are being prodded by people outside of them and probably supported as well beyond just prodding. Now, that being said, we'd have to go further down that rabbit hole. And I don't know enough about this guy to be able to go further down that rabbit hole at this point. Let's see. Benjamin Netanyahu and met with the defense minister Gallant to meet with the top defense officials to evaluate the state of play between the sides. Likewise, IDF chief later held a situation assessment. So basically, they were, they made this happen, and they wanted to check things out. All right, let's move on to the next story here. So how did they get a hold of these? And I think that, so we were talking about this. I think this is an apt story to move to here. Handheld radios used by Hezbollah. Oh, wait a second. This has been updated. Oh, okay. So this is the update based on what just happened. Handheld radios. So Watcher, these are the ICOMs and things like that that were going off now. Handheld radios used by Hezbollah detonated late on Wednesday afternoon across Lebanon's south and in Beirut's southern suburbs. A security source and witness said further hiking tensions with Israel a day after similar explosions launched via the group's pagers. At least one of the blasts took place near a funeral organized by Iran-backed Hezbollah for those killed the previous day. Thousands of pagers used by the group exploded. So, Watcher, what do you think the impact is going to be? I mean, when your communications devices go up, do you think they just go back to, Stone Age communications?
Yeah, well, kind of. In my opinion, it's going to be the exact same thing that happened in Afghanistan when we started targeting them based off their cell phones. I mean, I'm sure they moved to pagers, and we had a harder time doing that because most pagers don't issue a signal; they only receive.
Yeah.
But my guess is they're probably going to start moving to motorcycle couriers like they did.
Yeah, just couriers. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. They're just going to go low tech on them. But then the interesting thing is that makes it easier to follow couriers. Once you identify the couriers, you can follow their movements, through GPS tracking and all this kind of stuff. So there were all kinds of interesting ways to once they went low tech, to continue to track them. Israeli spy agency Mossad, which has long had a history of sophisticated operations on foreign soil, planted explosives inside pagers imported by Hezbollah months before Tuesday's detonation. a senior Lebanese security source and another source told Reuters. The death toll was 12, including 2 children. Lebanese health minister Faraz Abad said Tuesday's attack wounded nearly 3,000 people, including many of the militant fighters and Iran's envoy to Beirut. A Taiwanese pager maker denied it and produced the pager devices, which exploded in an audacious attack. You know what's interesting, Watcher? I think
Requited. Yeah.
I think that these are probably just knockoffs that the Israelis made, and then just
I think that might be very fair.
You know, and they just basically intercepted took the boxes, took the Taiwanese ones out somewhere, and put the probably.
If I was going to bet, the easier way to do that would be to just rig the batteries themselves. So you get the official device in, and then you pull the battery that came with it out and slap your own battery with an explosive device inside.
That could be it. Taiwanese pager maker denied that it produced the pager devices, which exploded in an audacious attack and raised the prospect of full-scale war between Iran-backed Hezbollah. I'll be honest with you. I don't know that Hezbollah is probably in any condition to go to war right now after this. Gold Apollo said that the devices were made under license by a company called BAC based in Hungary's capital, Budapest. Okay, so that's where they were made.
You were right then, yeah.
There's no immediate word on when Hezbollah had launched the latest rocket attack, but normally the group announces such strikes shortly after carrying them out, suggesting it fired at Israeli artillery positions on Wednesday. Hezbollah has vowed to retaliate against Israel, whose military declined to comment on the blast. The two sides have been engaged in... Okay, so I mean, we're just in back and forth. Essentially, this is interesting. Hezbollah wants to avoid an all-out war. It still wants to avoid one, but given the scale and the impact on families and civilians, there would be pressure for a stronger response. The interesting thing is that if Hezbollah over-responds here, that could be what kills them.
Yep. And I
kind of it's kind of like Iran, how Iran basically, talked a big game, but the Israelis were able to kill that guy in their capital. And essentially, they did nothing about it.
I'm going to make an argument that if Hezbollah wanted to avoid an all-out war, they would stop fucking firing rockets at civilians on a daily fucking basis.
Oh, you don't understand, Watcher. They want as much war as little war as Israel will give them for everything that they do. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like a min-max kind of thing. They want to maximize the impact on Israel, but minimize the impact upon their organization.
I'm going to give the chat a quick thing here, and actually CVJ beat me to it. You want to make some money? Get on the AI today and write up a book on how to check if your Baofeng radio is a Mossad agent, and then put that up as a digital ebook tomorrow.
There you go. You use Grok. I think is a better writer than
correct. Yeah.
Than ChatGPT. Okay. Let's see. Let's go on. Going on to the next one here. So this, of course, so my title for this was Hezbollah on the rocks, because if they had their pager in their pocket, they blew their balls off. But so don't go to the first one. Go to the second one first, the Sean Davis one.
Okay.
Because that's the one you've already seen. So I think this meme kind of sums that up pretty well.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it to embiggen. It's not doing it. Hold on. Oh. Well, now it's just being a jerk, so it'll look weird, but here you go, chat.
Yeah. Hezbollah this morning. Amin Joy's got none, but Mounds don't, because Hezbollah had their nuts blown off. Very good. But I like this other one, and I think this is a fitting end to the show here as we see the parade of the veterans of the pager wars. This is like, 5-10 years from now after the Israeli pager wars are finally said and done. Here we go. This is Hezbollah. It says here in the tweet, let's see. What's the joke that goes along with it? I opened the wrong one. The next Hezbollah parade is going to be awkward. I'm going to hell for sure.
Not nearly as fast as those bastards.
That's true. That's true. That's true. All right. Hezbollah blowing up with their pagers. I'll be honest with you. This is the most creative thing that was not on my bingo card yet.
No, it was brilliant, man.
UCO Steve for $1 over in Rumble says, I wonder if they're going to recall all the pagers in Lebanon. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, who's going to recall them? Not the owners. Nobody wants to bring the explosives back to where they were made.
I was gonna say this will probably never be attributable because Hezbollah doesn't have the resources or ability to investigate it, and Israel's not going to reveal.
Yeah, that's right. All right, gentlemen. That's all I've got, gentlemen. Just you, Watcher. Joe's not here anymore. Any final thoughts for the folks?
Yes, get connected, learn about the people in your area, make some friends, understand that the normalcy bias filter that the regime has been projecting is crumbling at an incredibly rapid basis. You can see this even in their own lapdogs. So pay attention. Cornered rats are the most dangerous.
So over 200 folks watching over on Rumble and 115 or so over on YouTube. Thank you guys for being here. If sorry we had to take that break, but sometimes you just got to kind of take that break, right? And I was able to get a lot of the things that I needed to get done. And honestly, I think,
Scott, honestly, I was thinking about it. We've been doing the show for almost 3 years. Do you know how many breaks we've had that weren't directly travel related?
None.
Correct. This was the first. So
yeah,
I think we're probably owed a week of downtime for a minute.
And I think what we may do going forward in the future is we may have like a two week long hiatuses or breaks scheduled into the year. Yeah, and then that way, we've got a little breathing room. And then the other thing too is I feel like I owe you guys to not drop out on you guys without speaking. Like I said, a lot of things just kind of piled up on me all at once, and I just needed to take that week off. Apologies to Mr. Dolio too. I didn't even tell Joe before I announced it to you guys, so it was kind of a last minute thing, but everybody rolled with those punches and I appreciate it. And so we've got over 300 people watching. If you haven't done it already, please like the channel, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and tell all your buddies about this. Joe, final thoughts on the day? We've got exploding exploding ICOMs evidently going on right now. This is stuff that's been reported within the last hour. So these aren't pagers now that are blowing up. Now they're actual small radios.
So the problem is where you source them. And I actually got a phone call from a friend of ours how this might work last night, and I had to explain it to him. These pagers and radios that they bought are newly sourced. So you have to be careful and really vet out who you're getting your equipment from. Because if there's a Mossad agent anywhere in the link, you just gave him a great target package. You remember back about 15 years ago, 20 years ago, the Israelis were real good at making cell phones go pop.
Cell phones,
and they did that by having to slide into people's offices and bedrooms and swap out phones. They didn't have to do that here because Hezbollah made a bulk order of these pagers that they were able to insert some malware into, made them think it was an open connection and popping the batteries. I'm sure the ICOMs were probably sourced from the same place. I would watch for some retaliation in relation to that, though. So
yeah, I would say that like the number one security thing out of this is, hey, just don't make bulk orders with your group name in them if you know you're being targeted.
Well, I doubt that this is a Hezbollah bulk order. I'm sure it was done through cutouts, but it still was a bulk order that they were able to intercept.
But those cutouts are well known, right? Hey, on a related note, speaking of irregular warfare against the pigs in the area, Watcher, do you have a drone with you?
I do. Yeah, I'll come right over.
Yeah, we just lost a group that I had to go because they were apparently right behind me, and I tried to roll them up, but they took off across the fence line. So,
anyway. Well, it sounds like I'm having some fun here in a minute.
Dorktron for $10 says, "Stop apologizing for taking time off. Matt Walsh is not watching." Well, it's one of those kind of things. You never want to disappoint people who are relying on you. And I've come to rely on the chat, and I feel like you guys have come to rely on us. So I know there were more there. I don't know about you, Watcher, but I got several people contacting me and saying, "What happened? What do I have to? I have to take I have to go without for a week." So that made me. I'll be honest with you. That made me feel really nice to know that you guys are going to miss us. So. I appreciate all that. And we will definitely do everything we can to continue to bring it to you until we figure out when our next scheduled break will be. And then, Joe, we're thinking about maybe scheduling 2 week-long breaks per year just to kind of give everybody, a little visibility on these in the future. And it probably are good for all of our mental health too. So.
Well, I know that this week on Friday, I might be able to make it on for the first hour because of the time change between us, but I might not because I'll have students arriving, so we will see. Okay. And Monday, I will be on the road, so I will do my best.
Yeah, that'd be awesome if you can make it from the road. As always, we understand the difficulties that come from that, but, there are also some magic moments that come from Joe on the road, so... Random PNW guy 84 says, "Okay, when the CFC puts its leave form in, we need to see your trips filed out, and you need MedPros needs to be in the green." Yes, I will make sure that I get that risk assessment as well. Merc06 says, "Great show, gents. Happy you're back." I'm also reminded of some folks that have reached out to us, so hopefully we'll have some new faces and new names coming onto the show in the near future that can, bring a different side of things to what we do here.
But also, let me just tell you that the way to get us to have you on our show is not to say, "Hey, I'm such a great guy, you should really have me on your show." If you know, you know. This actually happened live, so.
Yeah. That happened in
Took
Montana.
you a minute,
That's
right?
Yes, yeah. I remember that one. Nobody listening to the show right now does that apply to. So just so you know. All right, guys, that's all I got for today. Thank you for being here, Joe. I appreciate you taking your time. Watcher, as always. Chat, you guys are great. And we will see you on Friday. Stay safe.